Okay, I'm beginning number three, trying to move on with the collapse of the Russian economy. When oil prices were manipulated again, that was the last time it happened. It's happening again now for the Arab countries. You can be sure this will be accomplished. This particular objective, this agenda, it will come to pass. Promise. Watch and see if you don't believe. But you know what? You're not going to have time to pay attention so much to what's going on in the Arab world, and for that purpose, because you really are going to be concerned with what's happening right here. Things will become so bad and so desperate that you can't even imagine. In your lifetime you have never seen anything like this, and this is why it's so serious and so desperate. Our dollar, okay, is in the process right now of being devalued. Okay, so as long as everyone seems to be comfortable with the low price of oil and gas has gone down, and oh ha ha, it's everything's becoming better because look at gas prices have gone down and it must be better. You are mistaken and you're fooled. And it's so, and by the way, you're right, the gas prices will remain low for a very long time. They're not going to go back up. That's for sure. But this is not a symptom of a healthy, reviving economy. What it only means that the dollars that you have in your pocket to buy that $1.50 gas are going to become worth less and less and less. With the consumer credit will ultimately collapse, and interest on the debt is at 80% instead of 20% because we, the United States, the biggest, fattest consumers in the world, have gone around the world and borrowed so much money that you can't even possibly believe. And the rest of the world is no longer lending us money because they know we can't pay our bills, and we don't pay our bills, and they say don't give America any more money because they can't pay us back. And that's what's happening right now. That's why we are in a desperate situation. We can't find the money that we need. We can't even get the dollars together to pay the money back that we need on interest on the debt. If we can't pay the interest on the debt, we can't even issue bonds in order to finance what we want to pay, in which case the government financing will collapse. This is the second tier of the situation. One is the economy itself, which is the fundamental structure of the economic operations and health of the nation and the GDP, etc. This is already collapsed, and it is in the toilet, and it is in the process of trying to be propped up like a dead horse with stilts. But there is no way that we can rescue and fix it because it's an unfixable situation. Our economy was predicated on a house of cards. And when you pull one out, the whole thing collapses. And that is how we have done for our entire life. And I'm surprised, and most economics professors are also very surprised, that we got away with it for this long, in fact. Because it was a foregone conclusion that at some point this stuff would happen. And the housing market was only the first. The collapse of the housing market was not at all the great peril. That was just the symptom of what would ultimately become the fundamental debilitating element of the economic peril, which was the credit markets frozen without any movement, which is, of course, the engine that drives trade and surplus and all economic activity. Once that happened, the banks became in desperation and began to fail. And of course, we cannot allow this to happen because that would be a disaster beyond belief. So we pumped, and printed more money that we don't have. And we leveraged against that and bonded out of that. And we put more and more money into that to keep the banks from failing. This is a desperate, desperate situation. Do you see the dance that's been going on ever since the initial collapse back in October last year? And it goes on to the next, to the next, to the next. It's just one measure after another. Fix this, fix that, fix that, fix that. And those banks that we rescued at the very last minute and out of their peril, check again. They're not working either. They're going to fail again because they can't put enough money into the situation to fix it. It isn't a fixable situation by throwing money at it. We have a fundamental disturbance in the economic fabric of our operational apparatus. It is a lie, first of all, and we know it, and so does the rest of the world, unfortunately, and it's no longer sustainable. The government is going to go bankrupt, and that is the second tier of the problem, and the one that concerns me the most personally, because I rely on the government for my money. And when the government finances become in peril, which is likely, I predict, sometime in late summer 2009, in about 6 to 7 months from now, it will be announced that the finances of the government will become insustainable or insolvent, in which case government checks are no longer issued and which not. God help me. Worthless. Too much printed money becomes devalued and irregulatory. Borrowing trillions of dollars from the rest of the world, we blew it on consumption and we can't pay our bills. The asset bubbles that we inflated by reckless monetary policies deflating around us everywhere. We need to rebuild a real economy. We must recapitulate to the reality of an economic prosperity, which means that we have to save and not work and operate functionally from our credit cards to pay our bills, for example. And we have to make things. We have to manufacture things. There's no manufacturing base in here to substantiate the value of the dollar. Otherwise, it becomes worthless. In 1991, people were truckloading in rubles to buy a loaf of bread. And this is the reality of our country in about a year and a half. When the dollar becomes so worthless that it takes about $300 to buy a loaf of bread, I promise you, this is your reality. Wake up. This is what's going to happen. It's going to get really, really bad. The resulting deleveraging that's all around us has propped up our dollar and the markets for the time being, but it is an illusion. Pay the marginal debt and manufacture our way. We manufactured our way into the most prosperous nation in the world for many years. And we have consumed our way into bankruptcy because we don't do anything except take and eat and eat and eat and more and more and more, and we don't give back to anything or to anyone. The dollar is going to collapse, which is the fundamental, critical element of the crux of our economic structure. Without the dollar's value being in any way sustainable, there is no economy anyway. Forget about credit markets, forget about banks, forget about anything. Okay? The resulting collapse is hyperinflation, and there is no other solution. There's no other result. Gold is going to inflate to a whopping $2,000 an ounce. Right now it's at $700 an ounce. It's going to shoot up to $2,000 an ounce, likely by September 09. In lieu of a devaluated dollar that's plummeting out of control, approaching worthlessness by December 09, by the end of this year. The possibility of the collapse of the government finances could mean imminent civil unrest, martial law, and even, God help us, civil war. I propose a radical solution for this possibility, and that things, as they spiral out of control and people become more and more disenfranchised. But unfortunately, the solution that I am about to propose, although radical and unseemly, is a solution, but it's only a solution for a portion of the country, and that is the western portion of the country, affecting about 140 million people. So those 140 million people will have to be the ones to make the decision if they are inclined to activate this solution that they have available to them, that I feel very strongly about. In the next video, I will outlay it for you and show you precisely what the option is in this case. And when things become so unbearable and so desperate, people will likely be clinging to these kinds of radical solutions, as there is maybe no other choice. And unfortunately, the solution only works for, like I said, a portion of the country. But the same, it's better that some of us can be rescued, that even if not all of us can be rescued, why not, help half of us? So look for the next video so that you can have an understanding of what that is and see if you're even inclined to do it. It's radical, it's revolutionary, it's dangerous.